started recording. So we're going to put the recording up on actually this recording may actually go up on YouTube. I learned something the other day. I had a short that I wanted to put up on 5-minute video on YouTube the other day, and it actually took it. I was like, I thought I was out to September. Apparently I am not. Apparently I don't know. I don't know what happened. Maybe they just suck in how they do things. I don't know. I'm guessing that that's probably as much part of it as anything, that they just suck at how they work. Maybe a bot sent me my my second YouTube strike. A bot that was out of work now that they're going to be exposed to Twitter. And it's really funny that Elon Musk is exposing it. Now, this is just a side trip I want to take. You saw that Elon Musk is possibly backing out of the deal to buy Twitter, and you wonder why. You wonder why that the deal is that Twitter was supposed to expose how many of their users on Twitter are real. See, this is why I say to you all the time, and I say to people I meet in the street all the time: Twitter is not the real world. It is not. And we're finding out that there may be a lot more bots that just may be programs that send out tweets from different quote users than any of you ever could have imagined, which would make Twitter not the real world, which would make Twitter not as resourceful or useful as freaking Facebook. You know what I'm saying? Twitter and in getting information out may not be as effective or reliable as Facebook. Ouch. And that information Twitter just didn't want to release earlier, and now that they may have to sue Elon Musk into buying Twitter, all this information may have to come out in court. Yeah, those of you who put a lot of stock, or way too much stock in Twitter and its veracity, y'all are having a hard time today. Y'all are having a hard time today. Well, let's go ahead and get it going. Get it going. New York Times. The New York Times. Now, this is not townhall.com. This is not the Washington Times. This is not the Morning Bell from the Heritage Foundation. This is the New York Times. This article says most Democrats don't want Biden in 2024. A new poll shows. Now, I don't know if most people know how old Joe Biden is. And in 2024, that's 2 years from now, he'd be 81 years old. Maybe 82 years old. The thing is, you aren't going to get Biden in 2024. Not that I'm wishing the president any ill will. That's not it at all. He just wasn't going to run as an 81-year-old man. It just wasn't going to happen. That was never in the offing. What you have now is exactly what we've been saying all along. You have anti-Trump sentiment. You have anti-Trump sentiment. And I think that there was probably maybe at one point the idea that Joe Biden at midterm would bail out, and then you would get the first female president and the first Black female president in Kamala Harris. The only problem with that scenario is that Kamala Harris has been booty. She's been terrible, absolutely terrible. And even people on the left have noticed that she has been booty. She's been terrible, awful. Seems to be disconnected. She doesn't want to do stuff, and her staff is jumping ship, and it's just been awful, awful. And so they may have to regroup entirely and just hope that Joe makes it to the end of his term in 2024. And maybe they run Kamala, but they're going to run Pete Buttigieg and others again. This is why they're doing everything they can to poison the well on Trump. Here's the article. President Biden is facing an alarming level of doubt from inside his own party, with 64% of Democrat voters saying that they would prefer a new standard bearer in the 2024 presidential campaign, according to the New York Times Siena College poll, as voters nationwide have soured on his leadership, giving him a meager 33% job approval rating. Widespread concerns about the economy and inflation have helped turn the national mood decidedly dark, both on Mr. Biden and the trajectory of the nation. We talked a little bit about that a couple of days ago. Now, there are people who think that the country is going the wrong direction, but not for the same reason that you think the country's going the wrong direction. They think the country's going the wrong direction because Mr. Biden has not been effective in pushing farther and harder and faster to the left. They think that he has been too mealy-mouthed and too respectful of things like the Constitution and law and due process. We need to do these things. We need to do these things now, is the cry from the far left, and they don't think that Biden's been the person. So in that metric about the country's going the wrong direction are people who believe the country's going the wrong direction because of that too. So we shouldn't be woohoo. They don't think it's going the wrong direction for the same reason that some of us do. And that's in every corner of the country, all around the country, and every age range, racial groups, cities, suburbs, rural areas, as well as both political parties. Only 13% of American voters said the nation was on the right track, the lowest point in Times polling since the depths of the financial crisis more than a decade ago. For Mr. Biden, the bleak national outlook has pushed his job approval rating to a perilously low point. Republican opposition predictably overwhelming, but more than 2/3 of independents also now disapprove of the president's performance, and nearly half disapprove strongly. Among fellow Democrats, his approval rating stands at 70%, a relatively low figure for a president, especially heading into the 2022 midterms, when Mr. Biden needs to rally Democrats to the polls to maintain control of Congress. Because part of the president's job and the way that we have set this madness up is that there needs to be what people are calling coattails. He needs to be the standard bearer. He needs to be able to come into a town and rally folks. We actually saw a lot of it doing. Trump did it very, very well, and Barack Obama did it. My goodness, he was freaking awesome at it. If Obama came into the town and was at a rally for your congressional your Congress critter got a bump. That was very sure. I mean, if the president showed up, and especially if that president was Barack Obama, and we saw the very same thing with Trump. And Trump still has coattails, which scares the crap out of Democrats, because Trump still has coattails. So that's what we're seeing. And what we're seeing now is, we heard some stories last week that there was some congressional candidates in Ohio that were experiencing some scheduling conflicts. And Joe Biden, and they didn't want to, it seemed like they didn't want to be seen with him. It seemed like they didn't want to be on the same platform. That's what it seems like. Maybe there were scheduling conflicts, but you would think that you would be able to fix that if the president of the United States said, "Hey, listen, we're coming to Ohio. When's your next rally? What can we do?" You know, it would seem like you would fix that conflict if the president of the United States was going to come and campaign for you. But people are keeping their schedules. You know, Democrats are keeping their schedules intact, even if the president says that the president of the United States, the head, the ipso facto head of the Democrat Party, is coming to campaign for you, and you're like, nah, that's okay. So this is sort of a sign of deep vulnerability and unease among what is supposed to be his political base. Only 26% of Democrat voters say that the party should nominate him in 2024. Okay. Like I said in the open, excuse me. Like I said in the open, it's okay. This doesn't really mean anything. And those of you who are Democrats, don't worry about it. This doesn't mean a thing. Doesn't mean a thing because he wasn't going to run in 2024. You know, and I know his health does not allow for it. It's just not going to allow for it. He's not going to run in 2024. He's not. Now he can, he can saber, excuse my eye attention. He can saber rattle and he can say, oh yeah, I'm violent, and make it talk about like he's the emperor's new clothes, the whole deal. He's not coming, he's not coming back and he never was. Mr. Biden has repeatedly said that he intends to run for re-election in 2024. Yeah, he's not. At 79, he's already the oldest president in American history. And concerns about his age ranked up at the top of the list for Democrat voters who want the party to find an alternative. The backlash against Mr. Biden and desire to move in a new direction, particularly acute among the younger voters. In the survey, 94% of Democrats under the age of 30 said that they would prefer a different presidential nominee. So Democrats' reason for a different candidate. This is why Republicans and conservatives cannot get too excited about Democrats pushing back against Joe Biden because a third of them just thinks he's too old. That's their major reason. He's too old. It's not inflation. It's not the border crisis. It's not anything that you think it is. He's too old. Yes, because they are that shallow. I'm sure that they would be okay with Cardi B. A lot of these people will be okay with Cardi B. They will be okay with a woman up in Rhode Island who was twerking for votes. I read some of the comments on Twitter that this woman is relatable, and I trust her more because she's more real. She's a clown. She's a friggin' embarrassment to herself and her family and the entire state of Rhode Island. That's what she is. But 33% of people, of Democrats, their reason is that he is too old, his age. There you go. And only 32% was job performance. 12 was just like somebody new. 10%, he's not a progressive enough. Remember, I just told you that not everybody believes it's because of we're going the wrong direction. For the same reasons you think we're going the wrong direction as a nation. Some people think that we're not going far enough, hard enough to the left and fast enough, that we have not declared an end to capitalism, that we have not had a ceremony where we were burning the Constitution out in front of the White House or in front of the Capitol and coming up with a new document, a new communist, socialist document. There are people who believe in the Democrat Party that he is not progressive enough. Only 4% believe that he can't win the election. With all these things, 33% say he's too old, 32% that says his job performance, 12% say that his they just want somebody new, 10% say he's not progressive enough, but only 4% believe that he can't win the election. 96% of those polled believe that he can still win the election, with only 3% saying that his mental acuity is suffering. 97% of Democrats polled believe that Joe Biden's mental acuity is top flight. And 99% of these people believe that he's okay on domestic issues. So let's not celebrate these headlines when we see them. Let's dig into them and find out what the deal is. Jobs in the economy were the most important problem facing the country during the according to 20% of the voters, with inflation and cost of living only 15%. 85% of people saying things are fine. Close behind are prices are rising at a fastest rate in a generation. 1 in 10 voters named the state of the American democracy and political division as the most pressing issue, and about the same share who named gun policies after several high-profile mass shootings. Of course, whatever's on their mind right now, whatever chip is placed in by CNN right now, that's what you worry about. More than 75% of voters in the polls said the economy was extremely important to them, and yet only 1% rated economic conditions as excellent. Among those, which means 99% of people say, yeah, I'm kind of worried about it, but things are fine. I'm okay. Among those who are typically working age voters from 18 to 64 years old, only 6% said the economy was good or excellent, while 93% rated it poor or only fair. They're saying these things, but they don't believe them. Again, 96% of people polled, of Democrats polled, believe that Joe Biden can win the election, although they don't want him necessarily because he's too old, but they think he'll win. The White House has tried to trumpet strong job growth, including on this Friday when Mr. Biden declared that he had overseen the fastest and strongest job recovery in American history. But the Times Siena poll showed the vast disconnect between those boasting the strength of the economic indicators and the financial reality that most Americans feel they are confronting. We used to spend $200 a week just going out to have fun or buying extra groceries if we needed it. And now we can't even do that, said Kathy King, a former factory worker in Greensboro, Indiana, who's currently sidelined because of a back injury. We're barely able to buy what we need. Mrs. King, who's 38, said she didn't know if Mr. Biden was necessarily to blame for the spiking prices of gas. Yes, and yes, Mrs. King, he is. And groceries, yes, because of the first thing, but felt he should be doing more to help. This is how Democrats think. The president should be doing something to help. The fact of the matter is the president can't do anything to help. What they can do is get out of the way and don't hurt. The federal government should take the tact of doctors in do no harm. Do not make it worse. One glimmer of good news for Mr. Biden is that the survey showed him with a narrow edge in a hypothetical rematch in 2024 with former President Donald Trump, 44 to 41%. See, all of this, God bless it. We've been trying to tell you, all of this is about Trump. Every single solitary bit is about Trump. Because Trump is a disruptor. Trump came in and just started kicking over the tables. Just pulling band-aids off of stuff. Megyn Kelly asked Julian Assange, how come nothing has come out about Trump and all this stuff? Julian Assange says, because there isn't any. Well, you need to find something. Well, the idea is we need to find some dirt on Trump, but there doesn't seem to be any. And that's hard, and that's hard for a lot of people to wrap their brains around. That's tough because they've been told the opposite for so long. All right, listen, we're going to take a little break. We'll be back with more of the program right after these messages. All righty, welcome back. We appreciate you spending some time with us this glorious day here. It is not rained yet, but it looks like it's my here again. It is 85, still 85 degrees, and looks like it's going to rain a little later. Might rain again. My thought is it's going to rain before we get done with this broadcast here. All right. Politico thinks it's okay to heckle justices while they eat at a restaurant. So they think it's okay to intimidate them because the only reason at all why you would be outside of a restaurant or a gasoline station or grocery store or anywhere, giving it to a Supreme Court justice, giving them the business, would be to try to intimidate them. Because the idea is that that's not how it's done. If you are upset with the rulings of a particular court, then your path to making that change is a long path. That path says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to elect candidates, especially senatorial candidates, that can be at the ready when it is time to choose a justice. You got to win the Senate, you got to win the White House for that to happen. That's the path. The path isn't, I know we're going to show up at a fancy restaurant when they're eating dinner with their family, and we're going to raise all sorts of hell and intimidate them. We're going to show them what's for. That's not how it's done. And that's why it's illegal. And these states, especially Virginia and others, and this particular Justice Department that aren't putting these people in jail, that aren't locking these folks up. I know it's going to make them political martyrs, I know, but they're breaking the law. They are, in my mind, insurrectionists. They need to be locked up. So the left-leaning, devoted Democrat-loving newspaper Politico refused to condemn the pro-abortion protesters who heckled Justice Brett Kavanaugh while he was dining at Morton's Steakhouse in D.C. In the Saturday edition Politico's Playbook newsletter, the paper targeted Morton's as being stuck in the middle of a culture war. When a corporation is getting grilled on social media, there's a lot at stake. The best course is often to say nothing. Test your butcher. Oh, and my camera just did something stupid. Excuse me. Let me check that out. Sorry, y'all. Give me just a second. I'll get back to the art. There you go. All right. Test your butcher. The response, issuing a statement, can often just inflame things just because. Let's be honest. Press releases are a medium rarely well done. Politico wrote, adding, Morton Steakhouse learned that the hard way this week when it was steered right into the middle of the culture war. All Morton did was allow one of their guests, somebody who paid money for their meal, one of their customers, not to be harassed when they left the restaurant. That's what they did. They said, you know what? Let's get you out of here. First of all, it's a freaking Supreme Court justice, and it's one of their customers. And what we know, and what we all know, is that Morton Steakhouse is one of those upper blah 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 steakhouses, and all they did was say, "Hey, let's get you out of here. We'll get you out to the back, and you don't have to go through that." They took care of their customer, which they should have done. Which they should have done. This came again after a famous steakhouse issued a statement saying that it will not put up with unruly protesters regardless of which political side they're on. No, can't show up at my place of business raising hell. Don't care why. Don't care why. Sorry. No. Bite me. See, that's perfect. That's perfect. We're not going to put up with you disrupting my business. Honorable Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh and all of our other patrons at the restaurant were unduly harassed by unruly protesters while eating dinner at our Morton's restaurant. Politics, regardless of your side of view, should not trample on the freedom at play, the right to congregate and eat dinner. There's a time and place for everything. Disturbing the dinner of all our customers was an act of selfishness and void of decency. See, and most of you are okay with this because it's just like, Yeah, yeah, you're right. It just wasn't the time or place. Just wasn't the time or place. Just wasn't the time nor the place. You, a lot of people in this restaurant are just eating, just with their friends and family, just trying to, you know, eat some seared animal flesh and some vegetables that they paid an incredible amount of money for. And no matter how you feel, how deeply you feel that, no, you don't get to bother them. You don't. You don't. There are a lot of places where you just have to leave them alone. You just have to leave them alone. And that's the hardest. And I think for a lot of people on the left, that's the hardest thing. I mean, because they are at the point they are incredibly selfish and incredibly entitled and believe that everything they have to say should be said whenever, or however. And they are, like my friend Becky used to say, they think their butt's a cream puff and everybody wants to bite it. And they hate it when the boomers, me, like a lot of y'all, say no. These are the people who were not spanked as children. These are people who were not spanked as children. This is the timeout. This is the timeout and T-ball generation. The timeout and T-ball generation. This is everybody gets a trophy generation. There isn't. I wish there was another way to put it, but there really isn't. These are the people where everybody got a trophy. Because if you didn't get a trophy, then somebody would feel bad. This is everybody gets a trophy. This is T-ball where we don't keep score, except the people who are playing T-ball don't keep score, right? This is that generation. This is the timeout generation as opposed to the you get spanked generation. This is the timeout generation. This is a generation that we were told that we need to reason with our children, we need to talk to them, tell them why their behavior is not acceptable. Yeah, my mom told me why that behavior wasn't suggestible while she was whipping my ass. Yeah, she did. Yeah, there was commentary to that butt whipping. Always. There was commentary going on. There was a running commentary. My mom was doing, the play-by-play and color at the same time. Didn't I tell you? And you know what I'm saying? Doing color commentary and play-by-play. Come over here, I can whip your ass, right? That's how it was. And you know what we learned to do? We learned to respect other people. We learned there was a time and a place for certain behaviors, and the sense that for certain behaviors there was neither a time or a place. They weren't done by civilized people. That's what we learned, and as children, we had to learn that the most difficult way possible. We had to be shocked into it because you come from the factory as an entitled, selfish being, and you need to be shocked out of that. And spanking will shock you out of it. I'm not saying that you lock somebody in a basement and you beat them bloody. No, because most of our parents knew that there was a line and a difference because they were raised the right way. And now we have people who weren't, and they're running around. Big talk about people are leaving. A lot of state workers are leaving. Glenn Youngkin, Republican governor of Virginia. And of course, because people are leaving, people are saying that this guy is terrible and awful and miserable and people don't want to work for him. No, it's not because he's Ivan the Terrible. It's not because of his conservative politics, though no doubt he has caused some heartburn with the liberals in Richmond, Virginia, Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin has experienced a state worker exodus that is quite substantial. Around 300 workers have decided to leave. It wasn't over his budget. It wasn't over him winning the election. It was over a telework policy. The governor wants Virginia state workers back in their offices. And it seems that that was a bridge too far for these employees. However, I think the party change, regarding who occupies the governor mansion and controls the House delegation, played a part as well. More than 300 employees from 5 state agencies have resigned since Governor Glenn Youngkin announced Virginia's new telework policy in early May, according to records obtained by 8 News. The 8 News, yes. This includes 183 Virginia Department of Transportation employees, 28 of them who cited telework options as a reason for leaving. 2 VDOT workers, that's Virginia Department of Transportation workers, who listed telework as a reason to move. Somebody is trying to call me on Skype. I hate Skype so much. Obtained after filing a Freedom of Information Act request. On May 5th, Youngkin updated the state's telework policy for all the employees to begin working in person full-time by July 5th. A change the governor's office's stretch will provide options and support the use of telework where appropriate. Youngkin said it would help, quote, balance the demands of governmental services with the needs of our public servants. Now, here's the deal. We got told, pushed for 2 years that we should be working from home. We should be working from home. We should work from home. Like, because it's the only safe thing to do. Only safe thing to do. Now, I think what Youngkin found, like a lot of people found, was this. There are a lot of people working from home, but they weren't doing everything else from home. They were going out. People in Virginia were going to Busch Gardens, and they were going to Sesame Place in Pennsylvania. They were going to the beach. They were going on vacation. They were doing everything else but coming to work, making things a lot better and easier and more secure. And that's something that I don't think that people have really talked about. The security, especially when you're online, of the information and how to keep that information secure when people are home. Not just, I don't want to, spit all sorts of hate that people are home doing nothing or barely working, and that productivity is booty. But people are home barely working, and their productivity is booty. Would be much better in the office. People will tell you that that they would be a lot more productive if they were in the office. They'll tell you that. So a lot of people have gone back. A lot of people are working hybrid, where they're working a couple days at home. They're working a few days in the office as they're working their way back into something that resembles normal. That's what happened. So if you feel you can't work with a new governor, then you should leave. That's what should have happened in DC under Donald Trump. Folks who say they serve the government no matter who's in charge picked sides all of a sudden post 2016. It caused a mess. People who do nothing but push paper started to help those within these institutions undermine the Trump administration's ability to govern. People wonder why the government is at its lowest, especially among young voters. Well, here you go. And we've said this here on this program a number of times, that this agency loyalty is a problem. A lot of people my age have held up these federal workers as heroes because they have worked for 7 presidents and blah, blah, blah. And that's great that you served, that you've been on the public dole for 50 years, whether you're at the federal level, whether you're at the state level or the city level. You have been on this, you get your check from the very same place people on welfare get their check. And I think you should remember that. All work is honorable, but you should know where you get your money from. You get your money from the citizens, the taxpayers, and you should behave accordingly. But when agency loyalty trumps loyalty to the citizens and doing your job, that becomes a problem. That's what we have. When Trump and others start talking about the deep state, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about anything that is weird and bizarre and Netflicish. We're talking about agency loyalty, that deep inside these agencies, you have people who may vehemently disagree with the person in charge, whether they hate the governor or they hate the president or they hate the mayor, to the point where they decide that they're simply not going to do their job as well. They're going to make it harder for that person to do their job because they have learned that that's appropriate somehow. And that's not only is it appropriate, it is the right thing to do. Resist. So if there are 300 people who can't work in in Youngkin's administration at the state level, it is the best thing in the world for Governor Youngkin. It's the best thing in the world. They should leave. They should leave. Now, what they think is that because they're leaving, that the policy will change because they left. These people have only worked for government. These people haven't worked out here with the rest of us. Well, the rest of us are like, you get mad and leave because you don't like the policy, and you think it's going to change because you leave. That rarely happens. So now we know why people are leaving. They said so. They don't want to go back to the office. They don't want to work in the office. They don't want to be accountable, which is another problem for another show. All right, we got to get out of here, make room for somebody else. So until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody. And for goodness sakes, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.